Welcome to Artist on Record, your ultimate intimate conversation with your favorite artist. Today, I am talking to a great guest. She co wrote the Rocky theme song, dated Elvis Presley, and worked with Phil Spector. Her name, Carol Connors. Her memoir, Elvis, Rocky, and Me. You can get that book. Links are in the description or click right above your screen. All starts now. Let's talk to Carol. You're just being nice to me because you want me to
No,
do a good. You want
I'm
me to do a
not
good
that nice.
show.
Scorpio.
I'm a Cancer.
Oh, okay.
Scorpios and Cancers get along.
So.
What do you mean?
Well, from what I've heard, I don't know. I've had so many. I haven't had that many boyfriends, but my boyfriend. Let's see, Leo. Robert was a Leo. David was an Aries. Elvis was born in January. I guess he was a Capricorn. Whatever.
Elvis was a Capricorn.
Oh,
Robert Culp. What was his sign?
Was a Leo.
He was a Leo. My mom was a Leo.
Strong sign.
Leos, yeah. Cancers are too.
Yeah. Well, so are Scorps.
I'm a homebody. Are you a homebody?
I fluctuate. I'm very, very good when I go out, but I do like to stay at home. But I'm very social when I'm out there. Does that make sense? Yes.
Are you married now?
I've never been married.
Oh, you never been married?
I've had great love affairs, but I've never married
You have a
anyone.
boyfriend in your life now?
I have a couple guys that are very interested in me. I'm not interested in that level. I'm only interested in my music. Okay. Only
That's
my
it.
music. That's it. End of story.
I think we get along together pretty well on the first
Well,
date.
you'd enjoy my chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, I love you.
Cookies. I make great cookies.
Do you really make?
Yeah, I've won
Really?
contests.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to give you an introduction right now. I love this. Today on Artist on Record, we have music legend, songwriter Carol Connors. Her new book, Elvis, Rocky, and Me. A story about success and her wild ride. A memoir. You can get that book now. Links are in the description or click right above here on your screen. Now, welcome Carol. Carol is here. Everything she's done. Let me tell the audience really quick in this much time. Carol co-wrote the Rocky theme, Gonna Fly Now, which is amazing song. And then one of my favorite love songs, which I love, which we'll talk about. It's called With You I'm Born Again.
1979.
Come bring me your softness.
Again, Billy Preston. And it was her name Sarita? How do you pronounce it?
Sarita. It was Stevie Wonder's ex-wife.
That's right. And let's not forget where it all began for Carol and Phil Spector, the Teddy Bears, Phil's first band and Carol's first band before Phil was known for the Wall of Sound. The Teddy Bears, correct?
I was the voice of the Teddy Bears. Oh, no, him. That's a me. He wrote it for my voice.
And also, your love affair with the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley.
What can I say?
I'm a yenter. I want to know everything. Let's first go Phil Spector. Meeting Phil Spector. You're a kid in Hollywood, right? I believe Fairfax. Were you in Fairfax High School?
I was in Fairfax. Not yet. I was going into Fairfax High School. Phil Spector he was getting ready to graduate Fairfax High School. But he was dating my girlfriend, Donna. And they were like, smooching and kissing and necking and petting and whatever one did those days. And I was sort of the lookout. So I would be twiddling my thumbs, which I still do, and singing. And one day he said to me, I love your voice. I'm going to write a song for your voice. Do you have $10? And I said, Phil, I'm not even 17 years of age. I don't have 10 cents. And he said, well, if you can get together $10, you can be in our singing group and I'll write a song for your voice. So I went to my parents. My dad had been a jockey, so they live on the edge, as you know. My mother said, Anetala, my real name, go do your homework. But I was the most precocious, bratty child. And I went on, and my mom and dad gave me the $10. And in those days, $10 was a lot of money. We went into the recording studio, we cut the flip side of the record, and Phil said, I love your voice on tape even more. 2 weeks later, he wrote this song, called me. I was doing my homework. My mother was happy. And he went to now him. what do you think? What do you think?
And I do, and yes.
And I went, well, it's really nice. He said, be here tomorrow. We have to rehearse. We're going back in the studio. And I said, well, how am I going to get there? And he said, take the bus. So I took the bus. We were like one of the first garage bands. Went to the garage of Marshall Leave because Phil Spector's mother and sister were always screaming and ranting and raving at Phil. And it was horrible. And went back in the studio, did it in 2 takes. 1 for balance, 2-track machine, once all the way through, not one splice, not one.
No, no, no.
Gold Star put Stan Ross on the map, put Gold Star Recording Studio on the map, and guess who the drummer was? Sandy Nelson.
That's right.
Teen Beat went on to have a #1 record with Teen Beat. And I remember standing next to Phil, and he said to Sandy, I want you to go, ba, 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 ba. He heard everything. Even though that was the first thing he ever did in his life. He heard everything. And the record went on to become the #1 record in the world. And he said to me, when you sing it, think of your boyfriend. And I said, a boyfriend? I'm not even 17. He said, well, then think of your father. So when I sang the song, I thought of my father. And the irony and the sadness of this is that Phil's father committed suicide. And on his father's epitaph in New York, because that's where Phil was from, it said, to know him was to love him. And he turned it to a teenage lament and literally, as a producer, cast my voice.
Wow. That's heavy. That's weird, huh? Think about the father connection.
I know. I've thought about it many, many times. In fact, I tried to visit Phil in prison, because I needed closure. And that was one of the things that propelled me to wanting to talk to Phil. But it was so complicated when I spoke with the warden. Phil became possessed by his own demons. And he was up at Cochrane Correctional, I think it was called. And the inmate has to say whether the person can come. And Phil, I could have gone all the way. I think it's above San Francisco. I could have gone all the way up there and could have been waiting to go in and see Phil. And he could have said, I don't want to see that blank. And that would have been it. So I was crying. It's in my documentary, Elvis Rocky. I mean, it's one of the most emotional parts because you see me, and you sort of hear me talking to the warden and what they are telling me that I have to do. And at the end, I remember sobbing, and I put my head in my hands, and I was crying on camera. I didn't want to. But I said, he was my youth. Phil was my youth. What can I say?
Did you speak to Phil before he went away ever? Did you ever try to reach out to him? Phil, what's going on the phone? Anything like that?
I saw Phil after Rocky became a hit and I got nominated for the Oscar. Yes, we went out with his attorney, Marty Machat, who was his attorney, and Marty's girlfriend. But it was such exhausting evening, and Phil pulled a gun. And that night, at the Beverly Hills Hotel, a lady was walking by. We were all leaving the Polo Lounge. Phil's hair was like this, the big hair. And the lady went, I'm not an actress, and Phil got crazy and I'm going to kill that, whatever, I'm going to kill. And Marty was propelling him to the parking lot and to where, you get your cars to valet. And 1 minute I was standing next to Phil, and the next minute Phil had a gun in his hand. And I remember going home, and I closed the front door, and I said to myself, as long as I live, I will never, ever be in Phil Spector's presence again. It was so frightening. And when he was sentenced, I was at the sentencing. Alan Jackson, who was the lead prosecutor, allowed me to be there. Phil never turned his head, never looked at anybody, was stoic, just looked straight ahead as they sentenced him. That was the last time I saw Phil.
Philip Spector, guilty of the crime of second-degree murder of Lana Clarkson.
What a tragic Hollywood story. You know,
It's almost like Shakespearean, or who else, or like a Greek tragedy. You know, the whole thing. And Lana Clarkson died. Benton was friends with her.
oh, really? That's
Yeah.
who Bobby Benton,
Oh,
Playboys, the original.
oh,
She's
she's
beautiful.
my best friend and died buddy. Maids together.
Crazy, tragic Hollywood story. Phil Spector, how it ended, but he was not a well man. And maybe from childhood, his father, who knows what carried on, you know, but that's the legend of Phil Spector. It ended very sad. And I was just talking to my buddy Kenny Vance from Janie Americans. We were talking the way it's written, the way you're singing it. It's such a epic song, which the Beatles, John Lennon he covered it.
I know. And
You-
so did Amy Winehouse. There have been many covers.
No,
Is to love, 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 love.
just to see him smile makes my life worthwhile.
To know you is to love him.
And I do, and I do, and I do, and I do, and yes.
Talia Shire, because you know, you're Rocky, I did
Yeah.
rock. She once said to me, Carol, your voice was the sound of innocence. That's what I think made it so pretty. And Phil told me, because he loved Wagner, and you know, the composer, not my favorite composer, but he did love Wagner. And he said that the bridge, la da 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 dee da 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 da, was taken from a Wagnerian opera. I don't remember which one he told me, but that the notes were taken from it, which you can do. You know, it's not plagiarism when it's 5,000 billion years old, but that he had styled it after the Wagnerian opera.
Interesting.
You never heard anything like that in those days. It was Earth Angel and Shaboom and you know and all that, and all of a sudden this innocent voice. You know,
Oh, it's mad. What you created was magic. How long did you toy with the record to get? Because you took it and did it in 2 takes in the studio. So how long were you practicing to get it together?
not long. I mean, you know, we did that one session when I took the bus, you know, to get there to the garage, and then we went into the recording studio. I'm a quick learner and an incredible lip syncer. I was very good at lip syncing because you did a lot of that in those days. And but you know, no, we didn't take that long. I mean, I didn't take that long. And you know, and Phil put in the bo do 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 do. That's Phil singing that part, not Marshall. And my big thing, could remember I was so young. So there's one part when it goes, that was that for me. Oh yes, that was my idea. And then I hadn't taken a breath. So when I went to sing, no, Mr. Love, I had to breathe because you know, and I went, and I thought I was so sexy. I thought when I just
to see him smile.
It's beautiful.
So young, I was so young.
It's so crazy the feelings that you captured at such a young age. It's just, you know what, Carol? It's beautiful. Bravo.
Thank you.
Music history, really. It's a song that definitely you know, you could hear the Letterman, all them, the Letterman, and it's a song that taught bands like the Beatles how to harmonize and how to do a melody.
The harmonies that Phil came up with were breathtaking in To Know Him Is to Love Him. He and Marshall, the parts were beautiful. I agree.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Perfect. Okay, we got to move fast and you better come back because I want to dissect more music with you.
Oh,
All
I'll
right.
come back when the documentary is going to be released.
Okay, but we're friends now. We got each other's phone numbers, so we could always talk.
Of course.
Okay, but yeah, there'll be a documentary. You guys got to check it out, and
And
let's.
it's called Elvis, Rocky, and Me.
And
It's
you know
the
what?
same as the book.
the same as the book, Elvis, Rocky, and Me. Now, for everybody watching, I know what everybody's asking. You guys want to know about Elvis Presley.
Well, I said I got a woman way across town.
Let's go down the rabbit hole with Elvis Presley. What happened, Carol? Let's talk.
Well, I'll only talk about certain things. The reason I met Elvis, and it's in the first chapter of the book, by the way, which, I wrote with Stephen Bergsman. I'm not the only writer. I dictated it, and he really sort of put it together because he had done a lot of rock and roll books. So I'm in a market, if you can picture this. I'm in a market, and this creepy guy comes up to me and says, "Aren't you the girl that sang 'To Know Him Is to Love Him'?" And I went, "Yeah," as I'm buying a carton of milk, or was it a carton of eggs? You can't buy them today, but then you could buy them. I said, "Yes." And he said, "Elvis Presley loves your voice and would love to meet you." And I went, "Yeah, right, sure, of course. Yeah, what else?" And he said, "No. Well, like my father, who lived on the edge, I gave him my phone number. But in those days, you did not do that." And 2 weeks later, this creepy little guy calls me. He was sort of the outskirts of the Memphis Mafia, which were all the guys that hung around Elvis, Lamar, and all his Charlie, whatever. So he says, "I'm going to come pick you up," and my mother's going, "Hey." Yes, yes. I was very precocious. Sure enough, guy came, creepy little guy, took me to Elvis's, walked down these steps, and in the far end of the room was this beautiful human being that looked like a cat. And I mean, moved like a cat. And I love kitty cats. I have Abyssinians. I love cats. And I felt like a mouse. And he came up to me finally. I was on this side and he was over there. And he walked over to me and he said, "So, why do you name group teddy bears?" Those were his first words to me. And I thought, oh my God, that really is Elvis Presley, isn't it? And I didn't know what to do. I was like tongue tied and I went, "Just want to be your teddy bear."
Teddy bear.
And that started our love affair. He thought I had a great sense of humor. If you look at a picture or put a picture of Priscilla and myself in those days side by side, he told me that I resembled Priscilla. He had not married her, he had met her. And I think, because when To Know Him was released, he was in Germany, 1958. I think that might have been one of his favorite. I've never asked Priscilla, I should ask him this, because I know her quite well. I think that might have been one of their songs together. Stop to think about that. We used to harmonize together, but the songs that we did were, okay, wise men say only fools rush in. And the other one was, and I can't help falling in love with you. Hawaiian love song.
Oh, yeah.
It's the story. La da da da.
I will love you longer and forever.
I mean, we stayed friends up until the end. Our love affair lasted about 9.5 months. He told Shelley Fabre it was 2.5 years, and I said, "Elvis, it was more off than on. It was 9.5 months. I should have had a baby, but I didn't have a baby." But I threw, oh my God, that we were at an event, and that's when he said that to her when I was walking down the stairs. He was always so generous. Joe Esposito, right-hand man, would always make sure that my girlfriends and I were like front row or wherever in one of the booths at the International, and would come backstage. And he was so happy for me when we did Rocky, and and what happened with them.
Really?
Yes. But you want to hear the amazing thing? He was offered Chris Christopherson's role to play against next to Barbara Streisand. And if you look at the biopic, there's even a scene where it says, well, Colonel Parker and Streisand don't get along, so I'm not going to do the movie.
I never did anything lasting. I never made the classic film that I could be proud of.
What about A Star Is Born?
Barbara, the Colonel.
I to this day believe that if Elvis would have done A Star Is Born, he would have lived because he so wanted to be respected. I think that he would have gotten, and I've asked Talia and I've asked Diane Warren, who's my buddy, the GOAT, as I call her. I hope she wins the Oscar, finally wins it. And I asked her, we all agree that he probably would have gotten nominated for an Oscar if he would have done that role. He would have lived. He wouldn't have won because I know the way, I don't think he would have won because the Academy works. But the bottom line is, I think it would have saved his life.
He was a great actor. I mean, Love Me Tender,
Yes. Yes, he
you know,
was.
besides all the other movies in the 60s that he was doing, but if you look at Love Me Tender, it was a great, really serious, great role.
Everything's gonna be all right.
Well, he loved
James Dean.
James Dean, right? I was going to say James Wooden. I knew it was James Dean. The day that he died, I was at the Polo Lounge in a business meeting. It was after Rocky, and do you remember the little Philip Morris man?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
you know, he came running in, and he was like crying, and he screamed out, "Elvis Presley just died! Elvis Presley just."
Elvis Presley, the singer who shaked, rattled, and rolled his way to rock history in the 1950s, died today in Memphis. He was 42.
And the whole room gave a collective sigh of intense sadness. And I just fell apart. And I went home and I sat down at my piano. And from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 4 o'clock in the morning, I wrote the song that is the reason that the documentary was done. It's called You Loved My Night Away. It was a tribute to my feelings and his feelings towards me. And I never changed one note. I never changed one word. I put it in my piano bench. And now it's the reason the whole documentary got made. And I, to this day, believe, I know this sounds, and I'm not, like a crazy religious fanatic or anything, and channeling with Shirley MacLaine, but I do believe that Elvis was in the room with me somewhere because I played it for 3 major composers, and all 3 of them looked at me when I finished playing it on the piano and said, "Where did you come up with those chords, Carol? Where?" And I went, "I don't know." They were just there.
My throat away. You came to me, you loved my night away.
And I believe that Elvis guided me to that for some reason. And it's all in the documentary.
I could see that. I'm with you. I don't believe in all that stuff, but there's something. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. Do you remember your last conversation with Elvis?
Sort of. I was at the International. It was one of his last shows before he died. He was with Ginger. That was his girlfriend at the time. And not Linda Thompson, but Ginger. And I remember that we had gone through the kitchen or something to go up to the suite because he had, the big suite, and we were sitting there, and he looked so ill and so, I won't use the word that I see in my head. I'm just not going to say it. And I think I said to him, "Elvis, please take care of yourself. Please take care of yourself." It's almost like I don't even know what he hurt me in the state he was in. And he kissed me goodbye on the cheek, and my girlfriends and I left the room.
That was it.
And that was the last time I saw him.
Sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. Sad because the guy had so much talent. And it's from interviews I've done with people who were friends with him, through his stepbrothers. He had a lot of heart. He gave a lot.
Oh, yes.
He was a good person inside.
Yeah, he was. And I asked Joe Esposito before Joe passed away. I was at an event with him because he knew everything. I mean, he was like Colonel Parker, Joe Esposito, and they took care of Elvis. And I said, did Elvis, because every woman says this, every girl, you think he really cared about me? And Joe said, yeah, Carol, he adored you, just adored you. You were so special to him, and he was so proud of you. I don't want to start crying.
Are you lonesome too?
Did he ever give you like a gift or a piece of jewelry or something you have from this day that you remember him by? You hold on as a treasure?
I don't want to get into that, okay, if you don't mind.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of memories and a lot of great feelings. And he was, you know, how can I put this with? I know every girl, woman will know what I say by this. He was my very first love boyfriend.
That's it.
That's it all.
That's it. Sums it all. You know what? We'll get more Elvis stories with Carol because she's going to come back. But if you want to check out the book, I'm going to put links right here. You'll check it out. Click on that link. It's right here. Now let's go. We got to talk about, because you talked about Elvis being really proud of you about this moment. Rocky. I just had Marty Davidson, the producer and the director and writer of Lords of the Flatbush before Stallone became Stallone.
Right.
And Marty was telling me about how they wanted originally they didn't even want Stallone to be
Oh,
Rocky.
you know who they wanted?
Well, you tell me. He told me who they want. Well, at first when they showed the Lords of Flatbush, they wanted Perry King originally, but then Ryan O'Neal's another one.
Yeah, if they wanted Ryan O'Neal because he was coming off of a love story, and they wanted him to play Rocky. I said no, and he was
Another one was James Caan was another one they were considering.
maybe, but I know that Ryan O'Neal was the big consideration because of the hit film he was just coming off of.
You know what? It all worked the way it should work because nobody could be Rocky but
But
Sly.
why?
That's the truth. So let's talk about that. Your first time meeting with Stallone and how that all came into play.
Well, Bill Conti, Annie, and I had the same agent, and Stan Melander, and he said, you know, there's a little boxing film, and they're looking to go see the rough cut. So they had given me a script, and I took it to my father. And I said, Daddy, I've been asked to do a film about a boxer, and he said, who? I said, the guy's name is Rocky. He said, oh, Rocky Marciano, great heavyweight, do it. I said, no, Daddy, it's not Rocky Marciano. So he said, oh, Rocky Graciano, great middleweight, do it. I said, no, Daddy, it's not Rocky Graciano. He said, well, who is it? And I said, it's a guy named Rocky Balboa. He said, never heard of him, do it anyway. So seriously. So I went to the screening room, and there's Chardoff and Winkler and Sly and Sasha and the baby. She had just had a baby, Sean, at the time. And I think Bill Weathers, Carl Weathers, whom I just spoke at his funeral about a year ago, I guess about 10 months ago. He was so sweet. And we're all there, and the film comes on. Now, if I were to hit you like that, you would not hear it because it's a rough cut. So there's no sound. So they had a temp track, and they had this song. And the song said, he's got a Sunday punch that will put you into Monday. So I looked at Bill and I said, why do they want us, Bill? That's not bad. And he said, shut up, Carol. Okay. Film ends. He does the scene, you know, through the, you know, the hitting of the beef, the drinking of the yolks, 4 o'clock in the morning, running through the streets of Philadelphia, running up the steps, the arms go up, the whole thing. Okay. Film ends. John Avildsen, who was a director, by the way, Guillermo del Toro, one of our most famous directors, thinks that John Avildsen, that Rocky was the most perfect film ever made. And that the scene where the montage is will never, ever be recreated. When he told me that last year, I was like beaming for days. But so John Alves, a little guy, stands up and he says, very soft spoken. He said, John, you have a wonderful film here. John was his friend. You have a great film here. John, this film is going to get nominated for an Oscar, and you're going to win the Oscar for Best Director. And his voice is getting high. He said, John, this film is going to win the Oscar if you do one little thing. And we're all going, what? And the guy says, get rid of that song. That was the song that was in. It was written by Frank Stallone.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. But, you know, Sly didn't have any control at that time. This was his first film, you know, Rocky. So they come to my house, and Bill Conti sits down at my piano and goes, ba 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 ba. Ba, ba, and I go, what what is anybody gonna write to that? And everybody leaves, and I go into the shower. In those days, you could take your phone into the shower, and I call up Bill, and I go, Bill, I know what life's about. I know what the film's about. I know what the song's about. And he said, where are you? And I went, I'm in the shower. He said, are you with somebody? I said, Bill, I'm a Scorpio. If I was with somebody, would I be calling you? He said, Carol, do me a favor. Give me the line before you electrocute yourself. And the line was Gonna Fly Now. Because when John Avildsen put him in slow motion and he went around, he could go the distance, he could win, he could do anything anybody sets their mind to doing. He could even fly. And that's where the title came from.
Wow. Now, are there more lyrics to that song?
There's an entire lyric, but John Avildsen was so smart that he did not want to clutter up the beauty of the visual and the music with words. So he used 3 vignettes: trying hard, getting strong, gonna fly.
Powerful.
It's a complete, yeah, powerful. Thank you. I've been looking for that word for about 40 years. It was powerful, the way he cut that together. Things are just really wonderful now. And, you know,
So,
what can I say?
so that one song bought the house that in Beverly Hills. That was
The
it.
house that Rocky built, yeah. And I
Come on.
say, thank you, Sly. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, people. I mean, it's become like when the Pope, and I know that so much is going on now, but when the
Mm.
Pope came to Philadelphia, they did not play Ave Maria. They played the theme from Rocky when he got off the plane. That says it all.
I don't want to, I know we're pressed for time, but I got to tell you, there's a song that you wrote, and I was doing my homework on this. It's funny. I always thought the title was Come Bring Me Your Softness,
Come bring me your softness.
but the
Should have been.
title, but it's With You, I'm Born Again. It's a great song. Billy Preston. See, I keep saying her name wrong. Correct me. Sarita. Thank you. I'm from Brooklyn. I say my own name wrong. Sarita. And I love egg creams. Do you like egg creams?
I've never tasted one.
Oh my goodness.
You can bring
One
one over one day.
one day I will.
Okay.
I will. I can't believe it. No egg cream. I can't believe it. Okay. With You, I'm Born Again. What an epic song. What a beautiful song. And I used to play it all the time when I was young and dating. And that was one of the songs I put on when I try to get to third base. That was that song. So now tell me about where that song came from. I gotta know.
Uh, I wrote it for my love affair with Robert Culp. We went together for 2.5 years. And I wanted Robert to feel that way about me. And he did. And I felt that way about him. So I wrote it in 22 minutes. the words. And I write music and words, like on The Rescuers, I did the music, which was one of my Oscar nominations. I did music and lyrics. But on this one, David Shire wrote the music. He wrote it was from a film called Fast Break. It was just like a little tiny, maybe 16-bar melody. And I went, that is so beautiful. And sat down on my bed. And it's another one where I really believe that God, oh, here we go with me being a religious fanatic, but I believe that God allowed me to plug into some giant socket in the sky because I wrote it in 22 minutes, except for 2 words. I couldn't come up with the 2 words. Walked into a ice cream parlor called Clancy Muldoon's weeks later, and we were getting ready to record. I mean, I needed those 2 words. And I went, oh my God, chocolate chip ice cream, pencil, paper, and don't talk to me, please. And the girl thought I was nuts. The 2 words were, come show me your kindness. In your arms I know I'll find this. The 2 simplest words of the song. And it took me 2 weeks to find them.
In your arms I know I'll find this.
The beginning line, come bring me your softness.
Come bring me your softness.
I should have called it that. I mistitled the song because I went by the end line of the verse. Woman, don't you know with you I'm born again? Should have come because people walked into, according to Berry Gordy, because it was on Motown, people walked in and said, that record, come bring me your softness. And at first they didn't know what it was. We lost a lot of sales because I mistitled that song.
Wow.
It is what it is. Barry told me that.
No, with you, I'm born again.
According to Hal David, who was president of ASCAP, because I'm a member of ASCAP, he said that he called me up and he said, when it was at its height, Carol, if you never, ever, ever write another song, you have written one of the greatest love songs of our time. That was Hal David, and he was my idol. He and Burt Bacharach were my idols, and I'll never forget that Hal told me that. I wanted to change the second line of the song. It was, comfort me through all this madness. And I said to Robert, it doesn't, because I would use David's words. I said, it doesn't scan properly. And he said, Carol, if you change that line, do not tell anybody that you wrote this song for me. He threatened me. Wow. I never changed it. And today it's considered one of the great lines. Because think of what we're living through today. Come bring your softness, comfort me through all this madness.
Comfort me through all this madness.
Says it all.
The song is timeless. It's such a beautiful song, and it's up there with Burt Bacharach, all these great writers. It's such a great song. Whatever the title is, to me, a good song's a good song. What an amazing melody. And you had the 2 perfect people doing it too.
Oh,
The soul.
I know. We've had hundreds of covers from Mariah Carey to John Legend to Johnny Mathis. I mean, so many people have covered it. But oh my God, the 2 of them together, I mean, it was magic. It was magic in the studio to hear them because they were both there. They recorded together. It wasn't like one did it and then the other did it. They were in the room together.
And their voices make the perfect couple.
No,
You know what I mean? It's the chemistry.
Touched my heart.
It was anybody else considered to do that song, or it was just for them? You knew right away who you.
Gordon and Suzanne DePass knew that they wanted Billy Preston and Sarita. They wanted to find a vehicle for the 2 of them. And she had done many of the demos for Diana Ross and the Supremes, everybody. And she just had the most beautiful voice. And they both passed away. And I cried my eyes out because I realized I would never, ever hear them live again.
she passed away at a young age too,
Yeah, breast cancer.
breast cancer. And then Billy passed away. He was young too.
He was considered, didn't the Rolling Stones, was it the Rolling Stones that considered him one of the
The
greatest?
Beatles. It was the
Was it
Beatles.
the Beatles? Okay, it was the Beatles. Okay.
He was
But
in the Let
Mary
It Be
Clayton,
sessions.
yeah, right. Mary Clayton was the Rolling Stones. They
Mhm.
considered her to be one of the great voices.
But yeah, but God, Billy Preston was such a talent. I love him. I love everything about him. And
Oh, me too.
Dennis Wilson co-wrote "You Are So Beautiful." Supposedly, he was there with Preston on the keyboard. That's the legend of the story. But another
And
great
Joe
story.
Cocker sang it. Joe Cocker sang it.
That's right, Joe
But
Cocker.
the ending of that song is so beautiful. So
Oh, I know.
heartfelt.
It's very emotional. To talk about with you, and I know we're pressed for time, but I gotta slip in here right now because the Beach Boys. I love the Beach Boys,
Oh,
and you have a story because you wrote a song.
Hey, little cobra, don't you know you're gonna shut 'em down?
And you actually, Brian Wilson said something to you, and I'll let you tell the audience.
I'm
It
the
made a
only girl,
comment.
this is like, I'm the only girl in the history of rock and roll music who ever wrote a hot rod song that became like one of the biggest hits of all time. I wrote Hey Little Cobra. It's Spring, Little Cobra, getting ready to strike. So Brian Wilson of the Beat, I penetrated all boys club. They hated me for it. So, 409, I mean, all these terms about the cars. And this was tongue in cheek. I took my Cobra down to the track, hitched to the back of my Cadillac. I mean, come on. So, Brian Wilson once said to me, "We always knew it was written by a car." I went, "Brian, how did you know that?" And he said, "Because you can't take your car out of gear and let it coast to the line." That was the last line of the song. And I said, "Brian, if your car is that far in front, that's exactly what you can do." And Carol Shelby gave me one. He said, "If you write a song about my car and it becomes a big hit, I'll take you to Lamar and I'll give you one."
There was a little girl that came into my office that was about 5 feet tall one. And she says, "I want to buy a Cobra." I says, "Honey, you're not old enough to buy a Cobra. How old are you?" She says, "I'm 17 and I have the money to buy a Cobra." I thought, this is a little strange here. So I took her in the office and we started talking, and her name was Carol Connors, and she says, "I'm a songwriter," and says, "I wrote a song to know him is to love him," and says, "I have enough money to buy a Cobra." I said, "But you're not old enough to buy a Cobra. You have to bring your mother with you." So she brought her little mother in that was about 5 feet tall, and her little brother, and her mother didn't want her to buy the car, but it was her money. She had earned it, and she said, I want to write a song about my Cobra." So I says, "That'd be fine." I never thought that it would amount to anything. 6 months later, this song had come out, and it went to #1, actually #1 in the country, and was there 1 week before the Beatles came over here and knocked it flat. And I don't like the Beatles this day.
So my car today is, I don't own it, is worth $2.5 million.
Wow.
Engine number 2544. And it was my second Cobra. Carol gave me the first one, which was registered to my mother.
Oh my goodness.
Get insurance. And it says Gail Kleinbard, owner of the Cobra.
So working with Terry Melcher, who did everybody. I mean, he did Paul Revere and the Raiders,
Right.
the Beach Boys he worked with. Also the infamous Charles Manson connection, which is
Oh, I know. Scary
crazy.
connection. Very scary. Very scary. I know that whole story.
I mean, you were there. Were you?
I was in the waiting room at Columbia Records going in to see Terry Melcher about Hey Little Cobra. And if my brain hasn't left me totally, Charles Manson was walking out.
Whoa.
And
That's
Joey Melcher took my song, obviously, and made it a big hit. And of course, I know he did not record anything of Charlie Manson's. He didn't think he had any talent, if I remember correctly.
and that's kind of what led into that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood type of
Yes,
situation.
yes.
It's
What a movie.
so wait, you saw Manson walk? Did you get a
Once.
creepy vibe from him or
No, not
nothing? Just a
really.
hippie, you thought?
Yes, just a sort of creepy hippie, similar to the creepy guy in the market with Elvis. They were creepy, you know.
That is I'm dropping everything. I'm getting so intrigued by these stories. Okay, everybody, we're gonna bring Carol back, but her memoir, Elvis, Rocky, and Me, links will be in the description right here. Before I let you go, your Wikipedia, it said you testified at the O.J. Simpson trial. What is that about?
Shapiro, next witness, please.
Miss Carol Connors,
All right, Ms. Connors, we come over here, stand next to the court reporter, and face the clerk, please. All right, raise your right hand, face the clerk. Mr. Shapiro.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Miss Connors.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm okay.
A little nervous?
A lot nervous.
Well, we ask you just to relax, and I have just a few questions for you.
Okay.
Can you identify, is this the photograph that you alluded to?
I think that's me.
And did you,
Most of the contacts that you had with the defendant were at charity events,
There were events or functions, yes.
like the Sheba Medical Center.
That's one of them, yes.
Um,
I was there at the $25,000 night gala dinner at my girlfriend's home in Bel Air, and I was at the table next to OJ. He was dating Paula Barbieri from Florida, and so I watched. It was a very beautiful. Natalie Cole was singing. It was a very beautiful Midsummer's Night Dream party, and that there were 3 pictures taken that night of OJ, and I was in one of them with these little tiny ladies, and that were big OJ fans, and so I went up to OJ. They asked me if I thought OJ would take a picture with them, and so I went up and I said, OJ, would you mind? And he said, oh, he knew me, and he said, oh no, we all had Abyssinian cats. He and Nicole and I have Abby's. And he said, no, and oh, Carol, you look so beautiful. It's so great to see you. I love your purse, because I had a very unusual outfit. It was real pretty. And we took the picture. And the next day, and I said to him that night, I said, I'll never forget this. I said, how are your Abyssinians? And he said, and it was the coldest, he said, they're all dead. Just like that. I mean, it was like, in fact, it sent chills. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, they've all passed away and we lost 6 of it. They're all dead. And idiot me says in the next breath, how's Nicole?
Oh my goodness.
He did not say she's going to be dead tomorrow. He said she's fine. And the next day she died. She died that night. The next night. Yeah, that was the next night, because I was with him the night before the murders at that dinner. And he was very, very gentle and kind to Paula. It was so eerie. And at first I did not and could, there's my Abyssinian. I did not and could not believe that he did it. It was impossible for me to, I'd just been with him the night before.
Crazy. Everybody watching, this is why right now, click on that link, her memoir, Elvis, Rocky, and Me, Carol Connors. You can't, if I just, right now from this episode, you can't get more intriguing than that story right there. Is there an artist that you wish you had, a bucket list artist that you always wanted to work with and it didn't happen? Anything?
I was blessed to work with Placido Domingo, because my mother was supposed to study opera in the Warsaw Conservatory of Music. and she had the most beautiful singing voice. I think, speaking of beautiful singing voices,
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have worked with Barbara Streisand. Never did.
Never over.
Never.
It's never over.
Oh, did get to work a couple times with Johnny Mathis. And I think, I mean, when you listen to Tonight or Maria, I mean, his voice was also touched. You know, some voices are just touched by God in a way, you know, and Streisand is. And so,
Yeah, absolutely. I'll name drop really quick. So my ex-girlfriend, her mother was a comedian, and she was best friends. She used to open up for Mathis on all his shows.
oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I got,
What a
yeah.
voice. What a-
That's a little fact here. Really, before I let you go, it's going to be tough. 5 of your favorite albums or songs. Can you pick 5? Give me a top 5. That it does have to be your songs, but things that you love, just for the
well,
audience to know
okay,
you
okay.
better.
Obviously, with you, I'm Born Again. God, I was just telling somebody. There's a thing that Bob Dylan did that has knocked me off my feet, and we just voted, you know, for the Oscars. Called it's Most Foul. The last 2 words. It's a long, involved piece. It is so brilliant that it's about 18 minutes long. You can look it up. The last 2 words are most foul. I just can't think of the first word. Killing Me Softly is one of my favorite songs.
Oh,
great. You know, then we can go into opera. You know, I mean, I'm really an opera buff. I love, you know, Une Belle Day from, you know, Madame Butterfly. And, you know, I love, I was asked what my favorite, I guess this is one of my favorite songs of all time. They're doing a book about songwriters and their favorite Beatles songs. What do you think mine would be? And I will tell you. I'm just curious if you think. Because I'm a big Beatle fan.
You're a big Beatle fan? I mean, okay. I think if you were going to pick a Beatles song from, I would say there's 2. I Will or Here, There, and Everywhere. No.
Nope. Eleanor Rigby.
Wow.
It's one of the most beautiful things I have ever listened to. It reduces me to literally falling on my knees over its beauty.
Be honored if you do your famous dolphin call. Go ahead.
I did it for Victoria Beckham coming to America, and it went viral for her. She did a special. Okay, but I have to think dolphin, so give me a second.
Carol Connors, and I got to tell you, wonderful talking with her. Make sure you check out her memoir, Elvis, Rocky, and Me. Links are in our description down below, or click right here. Until then, everybody, I am Stefan. You're beautiful. Make sure you click here and here for our next episode, and always post your comments down below. Let's start a conversation. Until then, kids, who loves you, baby? We do. Thanks for watching. Can't get enough of me, huh? Well, click on your screen right here for our next episode. Something really cool has popped up on your screen just for you. And make sure you check out Artist on Record wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can now hear us streaming everywhere.
Join the Dolphin Club. Come on, do it. It's